Hi YouTube, it's Marie, and I am here with a quick review of the Spencerian system of practical penmanship. I, like many people, grew up learning block printing in elementary school, and then a few years later graduating to script writing, but it wasn't the Spencerian system. In fact, I'm not really sure what it was. They didn't teach it with a name. But like many people, once I learned the script writing system, I promptly forgot it and haven't really used it in, well, 20 or 30 years. So I recently decided that was something I really wanted to improve upon because my script writing has deteriorated significantly. And so I did a little research on YouTube and came across this Spencerian penmanship system. And when I looked on Amazon, I saw that this was really quite inexpensive. It's approximately between $20 and $25 for the entire set, although you can buy the individual books for about $5-6 each, but you can buy the set, as I say, for between $20 and $25 depending on whether you get it on sale. So what you get is this theory book, which is just a book of sort of instructions, and then you get the individual books which contain places where you can actually practice your writing skills. So diving into it, the theory book talks about Spencerian. He was a gentleman from the 1800s who developed this method of handwriting. And although he didn't create these books, when he passed away, his sons and somebody else thought it would be a good idea to publish this. So they did. And in more recent times, a company called Mott Media republished it. So this is a republish from something from the 1800s, which is pretty cool, from 1874. So it's pretty old school. So the theory book just gets into some of the straightforward things like how to sit at the desk, how to position your arm, how to hold a pen, things like that. So I won't dwell on that. And then it goes over all of the strokes or movements, as it's called. So a straight line, a curve, circles, all that kind of stuff. Quite honestly, I didn't really read this. I have no patience, so I went straight into the practice notebooks. But I did come back to this afterwards if I was finding it difficult and I wanted to learn more. I'm still just barely scratching the surface at book 1, so I'm by no means an expert on this, but I wanted to give a bit of an overview. So here's some of the things you can see in the notebook. It's still very, very handy, and something I probably should have read from the get-go. The books, book number 1 covers short letters and 4 strokes and principles, or principles as Spencer called them. Book 2 covers some tall letters, including T and D, and the figures or numbers 1 through 9. Book 3 completes all of the lowercase alphabet and in most of the capitals. Book 4 completes all of the capital letters and practices all of the letters as they appear in words, which of course is a little more complicated. And book 5 presents sentences and sayings for writing practice. So, moving on to the meat of this. This is book 1, and this is what I'm working on. So, each book is laid out the same way. On the inside cover, they sort of go over what you're going to learn in the book. They identify the strokes that you're going to learn. So in this case, I'm going to learn number 1, which is just a straight diagonal stroke, a curved stroke, sort of right and left, if you want to think of it that way, and then the loop. Those are sort of the main strokes I'm going to learn in this, and then he numbers them, and he calls them 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can always learn, he'll call for a number 1 or a number 2. So across the top, the first line is his example of what you're going to do, and then it's just empty the rest of the page. I sort of dabbled in the different pens that I wanted to use, and it became quite apparent to me that the finest pen that I could find was the one that was easiest for me to use, and sometimes I change color to amuse myself. So I'm using my Lamy Safari with an extra fine nib. That's what I'm using, but really anything you want is fine. It's not really, I think, vital that you use any particular pen. And so you just start practicing. And sometimes I go fast, sometimes I go slow. I'm trying to reinforce the stroke and make it come natural. I'm also trying to concentrate on not squeezing to death my grip to make my hand feel relaxed, because I do tend to put a death grip on my pen. So I'm just trying to make it all natural. And as you might imagine, when you're doing this many little short strokes, it gets a little boring. So rather than just do this over and over and over again, I would do maybe a couple rows of this, and then I would move on to the next page. In this case, it was sort of a little curve. So the first half of the row was a curve was this way, and then the second half, the curve would go the other way. So hopefully this gives you an example of what I'm talking about. And then on the next page, it got a little more complicated. So now we're sort of working on a sort of a U type thing which is connected. And again, I'm not completing the page, but I'm just starting to keep myself from getting bored and moving on. So I'll do maybe, a line or two of the straight strokes, then the curved stroke, and then move on to this. Then we move on to the next one, which is a different kind of stroke. Again, the last line's a little shaky because I did that one while I was on vacation on a cruise ship, which I quickly decided was a bad idea because there was too much vibration on the boat. So that's typically how this moves along. Each page gets progressively a little bit more complicated as the book moves along. I'll give you a little peek into number 2. Just randomly open it up to a page. That's what number 2 looks like. Randomly open up to a page in number 3. That's what it looks like. Hopefully the camera's in the right place. And randomly open up a number 4 book, and randomly open up number 5. So number 5 being the final book where you're doing complete phrases by the end of the book. So that is the Spencerian system of practical penmanship, books 1 through 5. I hope this has been helpful, and if you have any questions, please, as always, feel free to leave a comment and I will get back to you. And thanks for tuning in.